The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 73.
Who wants an orange whip? Orange whip? Orange whip? 3 orange whips.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. This is Jeff Pellizzero. Hopefully you recognize that little audio clip there at the beginning. If not, obviously we're talking about the orange whip. The phenom that has taken the golf world by storm. You see it hanging out of the bags on pro tours. You see it on the range everywhere you go at the local clubs. It seems like everybody is swinging an orange whip. I'm a big fan. I love it. You'll hear me talking to Jim today about how much I use it, the different ways that we use it at our gym. But it just seems like it's a tool that I haven't come across anybody that doesn't like the orange whip. So today it might even sound like a bit of a commercial for the orange whip because I am such a big fan of it. And I just think it's cool that we have Jim here to tell us the story of how it came about, how he developed it, where it came from. We learn a little bit about his background and why it's become such a successful tool, and honestly has gone from year 2008, where he first released it to the public pretty much, and has really just kind of exploded in the golf world. If you don't know what the orange whip is or haven't swung one before, I'm not sure where you've been hiding, especially since you're a golfer listening to a golf fitness podcast. Usually you're the one that's up on everything golf related. But if you haven't, you're going to learn a lot about a great tool that so many people are using and has really improved people's games, improved people's swings, and I just know so many golfers that are swearing by this thing. So for today's guest, we have the inventor, the founder of the Orange Whip trainer, Jim Hackenberg. Jim is a PGA professional, played on the mini tours, and has been in the world of golf for a long time, caddying on the professional tour. And so you're going to hear his story as well as, where this whole idea came from. So I'm very happy to introduce to you Jim Hackenberg. Hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity.
You bet. I'm very excited to have you on and learn more about the Orange Whip and how it started and, who's using it, how they're using it, all that good stuff. But before that, I want the audience and myself to get to know you a little bit better, where you came from, where you grew up, and, how all this came about. So give us a little background on you and what you did as a youngster and how you got to where you are now.
You bet. And that could take hours, but I'll try to make it brief if I can. No, I'm from North Dakota originally, Grand Forks, North Dakota. I was number 8 of 9 kids.
Wow.
And so I'm from a big family. And actually no one played golf in my family. My parents did not, none of my brothers or sisters. I was introduced to the game through neighborhood friends who played with their dad. So I was probably 12 or 13 years old when I first took a swing at a golf ball. And it was interesting because I played all the other sports. I played hockey, I played baseball, I played football, and I loved all the sports. But golf almost immediately started to attract me because it was such a unique activity, and you could do it all day long if it was a nice day. And it was endless as far as the interest for me. So I quickly started dropping my other sports to give me more time for golf. So by the time I was in high school, I was a hockey player in the winter and a golfer in the summer. And then I finally gave up on hockey because no one was looking for me to play for their college team, and I wanted to play college golf. So I headed south and moved down to Arizona and eventually became a member. I was a walk-on to the Arizona State golf team. So that was quite an exciting time for me.
Awesome.
And from there, what was interesting about that is I was a walk-on to the ASU golf team the same year Phil Mickelson was a freshman. So I became friends with Phil early on. And that was a cool experience because, as you would guess, Phil was a pretty amazing golfer at all times. But when he was young, he was unbeatable and he was just dominant. But he was just a wonderful guy. And what I liked about him the most, the thing that always sticks out to me, is that, if I were to hit a bad shot, I'd be complaining or grumbling or trying to figure out what I did wrong, and I wouldn't even be thinking about my next shot, where Phil couldn't walk fast enough to the trees to find his ball and figure out a way to make birdie from the trees. So I was very intrigued by that mentality, and it's no surprise he's had such a great career because of that. And then beyond that, after ASU, I was there for 2 years playing on the team, but I wasn't traveling as much as I'd liked. So I transferred to Oregon State, and I played for Oregon State for 2 years, and that's where I finished my college degree. And then after that, I knew I was going to pursue golf, so I would work in the golf industry half the year, and then in the summers I would go play mini tours and try to make it to the big tour. And after multiple years of that, I mean almost 8 to 10 years of trial and error and not quite making it there, I saw that I wasn't going to make it on tour, so I followed my pursuit of teaching, because teaching golf became very interesting to me, because as a wannabe tour player, you're always trying to improve your game, and you'll learn things along the way. You develop skills, you develop abilities to improve your golf game. So I thought, well, I can share this with a lot of my students. So teaching was the natural direction for me. Now, as a teacher, I would say I was a fine teacher. I wouldn't say I was great, but I wouldn't say I was bad. I would say I was fine. But my dilemma was I taught quite a bit like most other golfers. I would teach the technical aspect of the golf swing. And I was starting to witness a lot of my students struggling with this and actually probably not improving, and maybe even getting worse at times because they were so tense with these positions. So I was struggling with this, going, how do I improve my ability to convey this message to these students? And I was never solving that puzzle. Well, then something very unique happened, and it kind of changed everything for me. A good friend of mine that I grew up playing golf against, and we also traveled together playing the mini tours, well, he ended up making it to the PGA Tour, and he invited me to caddy for him. So I said, yeah, I'd love that experience. So I'm going to follow him out to the tour, and I'm going to caddy and just kind of see what that world is like, living vicariously through him, and learn more about the game of golf. Well, what I quickly learned was every one of these tour players has beautiful rhythm. They're always in balance, and it's a motion. It's a beautiful athletic motion. So I started drifting away from controlling the club and thinking on those terms, and I started thinking like, how do I get a swing like a Jeff Ogilvy, or how do I get a swing like a Retief Goosen or an Ernie Els? What are they doing? And I used to try to break it down technically, and it actually made it more complicated. So I don't know how this happened, but I can remember this feeling, this thought, while standing on the range watching Jeff Ogilvy hit golf balls at a tour event. And I thought to myself, he's not trying to hit a golf ball. He's swinging a club as if it's a ball on the end of a chain. And if you have a ball on the end of a chain and you swing it back slowly, back and forth, what it's going to do is it's going to synchronize your hands, your arms, your body, your lower body, and your footwork, all to make it into this powerful athletic motion that looks graceful and simple, let's say. So I thought, well, that's it. If I could somehow get that message to my students, they will learn this motion as well. So I went to working in this little, it was actually a tiny little shop it was about the size of a one-car garage, this little building where we kept all the range equipment at the place I was teaching on Martha's Vineyard. I would do that, I would experiment with making prototypes of what now has become the Orange Whip. And at first it was just a weighted ball on the end of a chain, but I quickly learned the danger involved with that.
Yeah, that's more, I think we call that a mace.
Well, exactly, the mason chain. Exactly right. When I do a presentation, I show a picture of a mason chain, and I go, this is the very first Orange Whip.
Nice.
Yeah, but in this little shed, I was building prototypes, and after a little while, I started making one that actually worked, and it felt good to me. So I had a little get-together with some good friends of mine that a couple of them were golf pros, and a couple of them were just very good players, and we experimented swinging this thing back and forth, finding the rhythm to it, and I had the capability to adjust the weights on each end, because I had a head weight and then I had a counterweight. And after about 2 hours of experimenting and probably having a couple of beers, we came up with the conclusion that if we could equally balance this device, that's when it feels the best to all of us. That's when we feel like we found our natural swing plane. That's when we found the hinging and unhinging of the wrists to happen. So through a lot of trial and error and tinkering around, I came up with this, and then I had my friends help me adjust the weights to it. And once we kind of found the perfect point, let's call it, or that perfect mixture, I started using this device with my golf lessons, and it was strictly to help me with this concept of swinging a ball on the end of a chain. My mind wasn't even thinking of a business or selling this, but more and more of my students would state to me, Jimmy, can I buy this thing from you? I really like it. So that's actually when the light bulb went off, is when I had my students saying, I want to buy this thing from you. And that's when I started processing the thought that, hey, maybe I'm going to start a business. And that actually, the concept for the Orange Whip came in about 2003 or 2004. The prototype that actually worked was 06. And then 07, I really started moving towards, hey, I'm going to start a business. And I introduced the Orange Whip at the PGA show in January of 2008. So that's the quick version of how this all got started.
Wow. What I find interesting is, you played very high level golf for, you said, 8 to 10 years out on the mini tours, and then you did some teaching. And then once you started caddying, you must have had a little bit of a different perspective when you were out there, because you've been seeing good swings this whole time. What do you think it was that kind of clicked when you were out there watching as a caddy, when you saw these guys swinging and you looked at the rhythm, their timing, their balance? What was it that changed from when you were a player and didn't quite make that connection, or even as a teacher before going out and caddying?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And actually it's interesting because the guy I caddied for, a great friend of mine, he's a wonderful guy, we're still good buddies. He struggled with injuries while he was on tour. And what had happened was, again, take this as my opinion, he had a very strong grip. I mean, if you can imagine Paul Azinger's grip, I mean, as strong as it could be, or Zach Johnson's grip, let's say. His name is Patrick. When I was caddying for Patrick, he had such a strong grip, he needed to hit balls all the time and learn how to control the club face at impact, because if he just let it release naturally, he'd hit way too big of a hook. Mm-hmm. So he was always grinding on the range for 2 to 4 hours every day. Now, don't get me wrong, he had a beautiful rhythm, he was in balance, he looked athletic, and he was a heck of a player. But when you're fighting so much against that hook, you're controlling. So I started to kind of glance around at a lot of other players, and there were certain players out there, they could roll out of bed and hit it perfectly. And I started kind of watching these guys that made it look so easy, and they didn't seem to have to work very hard at it. What were they doing? And those are the guys that I saw the ball and chain, and they had a perfect grip and a perfect setup. So in essence, their swing was that easy. I mean, it was, for whatever reason, maybe they had a good instruction when they were young, and they had a good grip and they had a good foundation, but they had this rhythm. So it was really the parallel between looking at Patrick's swing and how hard he worked at it, and then looking at some of these other guys who didn't have to work very hard. And that's when I concluded it's not a control issue, it's more of a rhythm issue. And that's kind of when the light bulb dawned on me on the tour, is that you got to develop a rhythm first, and then you can adjust and improve your setup and your foundation after that, if that's the way you want to go about it. But without a proper rhythm, every day will be like starting over and trying to control it. And I lost interest in going that way. So yeah, it was that moment on tour, just watching the guys who made it look easy compared to the guys who were working tons of hours every day.
That makes so much sense. I have a client, her name's Ellen Port, and she's one of the greatest female amateur players ever. I think she has either 6 or 7 USGA titles, mid-ams and senior titles. Wow. And we were having a conversation a couple of months ago, and I don't remember if she was swinging the Orange Whip or what got us started with it, because we have a couple at our facility, and she was saying that she just recently really started focusing on just her rhythm and tempo and balance, forgetting about a lot of the technical stuff. And she said she's been playing some of the best golf that she's played in a long, long time. So look out for her this upcoming year. But and she's one of the best players that I've seen. And she's kind of a natural athlete. She's one of those people that I think can probably roll out of bed and go to the tee and play extremely well. Didn't start playing till she was 25 years old. Wow. And has achieved what she's achieved. So pretty impressive player. But even to her, at the level she's at, she stresses that it's that rhythm and timing and feeling the balance, not necessarily getting so caught up and technical with every little piece of the swing and your posture and all that stuff, which all can be important. But when you get in that rhythm, which is exactly what the Orange Whip is meant to do, that just kind of, again, it was like a light bulb going off in her head.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, people could say that golf is not a sport or an athletic sport, but I highly question that, because it's an athletic motion that requires perfect balance and beautiful rhythm. And if that becomes the goal, it's amazing from my perspective with teaching. After I saw this, let's say, the improvements were just amazing. But if you're tense and tight and trying to muscle something, it just doesn't work. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that story about her, because that's what my goal in life is right now with the Orange Whip. Is I want all golfers to learn how to swing their inner athlete, let's say.
Yeah, so I know that probably everybody listening to the show either has seen, has used, has swung an Orange Whip. For anybody that maybe hasn't, give us some ideas of what are some of the basic uses of it. How does somebody grab an Orange Whip off the shelf or get it, in their mailbox, and what do they do to start using it?
You bet. And I'll really briefly, we did a little bit describe the product, but I'll real briefly describe it again. We've got a device that's about the length of a driver. Now, and actually we have a few different versions, but let's say our full-size one is like the length of a driver. In place of the club head is a weighted orange ball that's about 10.5 ounces, so it's quite heavy. We've got a very flexible shaft. I'd say it's comparable to a fishing rod type of a shaft, but it's really just a fiberglass shaft that you could use as an alignment stick, basically. It has a grip, and then on the end of the grip we have a steel ball counterweight, which is about 8 ounces, 8.5, but then with the weight of the grip, it gets it closer to that 10.5 ounce number, so now it's an equally balanced device. So that's what the device, the construction of it is. How you use it, I'd like to refer back to a movie hopefully a lot of people have seen. It's called The Karate Kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what happened in The Karate Kid was he made him paint the fence, wax the car, and do all of these projects in a certain motion. Because you have to develop a motion to own it, to have the ability to use it. So he had him doing all these activities to develop a skill, and then he could put it into action. Well, the Orange Whip is exactly that. I've developed a few drills that I promote that if a person does this every day, and only 3 to 5 minutes every day, what is going to happen is their body will develop this, and it will almost be like dancing, where the more you do it, the more natural and rhythmic and relaxed you become. So these drills lead to certain skills that one needs to have a consistent, powerful, athletic golf swing. But if you don't do these drills and then try to play the game, it's just like it was before. It's a struggle. So these drills, I'll briefly walk through a few of them. And these are actually all either exercises or drills that I borrowed from people who know a lot more than me and know how the body should function. The first drill that I recommend with the Orange Whip, which seems odd the way we do it because it doesn't seem like you'd need an Orange Whip to do it, and to be quite honest, you don't. But I call it the torso twist. And it's basically a medicine ball drill where you take your hands and put them in front of your body, holding a medicine ball with your hands underneath it, and basically rotating back and forth using your footwork. And if you needed to, you could release that medicine ball and throw it against a wall. But I'm just holding an Orange Whip in front of me, holding it from the center of the shaft with each of the weight and the counterweight parallel to the ground. And I'm rotating my torso, but by using footwork. Now, the reason I start with this drill is because so many golfers that I used to teach, they did not rotate their body. They were afraid to turn away from the ball. They were just basically frozen there, and they'd lift their arms and chop down on it. So I feel that if you can't rotate your body, you're never going to have any power, and you're always going to struggle with golf. So this became my A#1 first drill. So I have them do the torso twist in a repetitive motion where they're going back and forth, not stopping for 10 to 15 reps. And then from there, I transfer over to what needs to happen with the wrists in the golf swing, because there's a hinging and an unhinging that needs to happen in the golf swing. So in this particular drill, I will get into my athletic setup, which you could also, it's an athletic setup in almost any sport. It could be a getting ready to shoot a basket, or it could be a linebacker in football, or it could be a person in tennis ready to play. And actually, tennis is a great example for this second drill, the wrist hinge drill, because I hold the orange whip in just one hand. I choke down on the grip to the very bottom of the grip, if not even below the grip, for the purpose of making it slightly lighter and easier to manage, because I will be doing this drill with one hand. So with holding the orange whip with one hand in my posture for golf with my arms hanging free, I slowly start to swing the orange whip back and forth with my hand and arm, allowing my wrist to slightly hinge to support the weight as I go back, and then release forward to support it on the way through. And also my forearm is slightly rotating, because it will need to happen in the golf swing that way. So by slowly going back and forth, allowing my wrist to hinge, I'm really replicating a ground stroke in tennis. It could be a forehand and then a backhand, because I'm going back and forth. So the same situation as before, and kind of like the Karate Kid, I'm going to go back 10 to 15 times back and forth until I find a natural, balanced way to do this drill. I'll start with the right hand, and then I'll do the left hand. And I'm doing this ambidextrous because I want to equally balance out the workout that a person gets with this orange whip. So it's developing their swing, but it's also equally balancing, and they're stretching and they're strengthening of these particular muscles.
Yeah, I love that drill, especially just kind of loosening up the forearms, the hands, and kind of getting the grip ready to go too. Exactly.
And it's a pretty natural motion if a person allows it to be, because that's what the golf swing should be. But the problem is, the people who struggle with the wrist hinge, it's because they're kind of just lifting up the club and then throwing it down at the ball, rather than letting it hinge and unhinge and whip through the ball. I'd rather have the club whip through the ball than have somebody chop down upon it. So yeah, that drill is wonderful because it teaches a very simple motion, and surprisingly, it makes the golf swing a lot easier to develop. So now the final drill that I promote heavily, and actually the drill that's probably done by 90% of the people, and they don't do the other two drills, is what I call the full swing drill. And you'll basically just get set up into your natural address position. You'll let your arms hang freely down below you. Hover the orange whip just a couple of inches above the ground, because there's no reason to hit the ground. I just want to teach the motion. I'm not concerned about impacting the ground. So I'll have a person in this position, and I'll have them start very slowly, almost like a small pendulum, almost like a putting stroke, let's say. And I'll have them swing the orange whip, their hands and their arms and shoulders back and forth like a pendulum. As that momentum grows and becomes a little fuller, they then will allow the wrist to hinge to support it on the backswing, and the wrist to hinge on the follow-through to support it on the follow-through. And they'll go from like a putting stroke to a chipping motion to a pitching to a three-quarter swing to a full swing. It's a gradual build-up. But once they reach that full swing, I want them to continue this motion and actually increase their pace if they feel they're in a good rhythm and if they feel that they're not getting pulled out of balance. And it's something that you'll do this 10 to 15 times, starting slowly, finding that proper plane, finding your balance, finding your rhythm. And then if you're confident and comfortable, speed it up. I mean, I've had a lot of the Remax long drive guys use the orange whip, and I've watched them do this drill, and it's amazing how fast they get it going. But their transition is almost like a pause. It's beautiful to watch. They'll take it all the way back, they'll wait for it, they'll let it load up, and then they'll unload, and it's just amazing to watch. But the only reason they can do that is because everything is in perfect sync. And if everything is syncing up, then it becomes very natural and very athletic. So those are the basic drills. But actually, let me throw this part in as well. If you're a right-handed golfer, obviously I want you to swing it 10 to 15 times right-handed. But if you're willing to do these drills every day, I highly recommend swinging it as a left-handed golfer. So reposition your hands with the left hand low and swing it as a lefty. What this will do will stretch and strengthen your body the opposite way, so you do not have an imbalance going on.
I love that you brought that up, because we've talked about that before on the podcast. Just the importance of going left and right, and we do so much repetition going one way that so many golfers I've met have never even thought about swinging the club left-handed.
Well, exactly. And it's sad because you know what? It'll open their minds to what the golf swing really is, and they'll almost maybe see it a little differently, and it will never harm them. It'll be nothing but a benefit. So yeah, I'm a big preacher of swinging it left-handed, almost as much, if equally, if you can do it.
Yeah, in fact, I've seen many photos of your buddy Phil. He's a big proponent of right and left-handed swings, and I mean, I've even seen him hit a ball right-handed, and he's pretty phenomenal at it.
Oh, even in college he was. It was amazing. Because we had another left-handed kid on the team then, and they both were trying to hit righty, and Phil looked like he was a 2 handicap, and the other kid was top and everything. So it was pretty amazing.
All right, I know that you and I were chatting, and you said that you've got these drills which you promote to most people and really recommend them doing, but learning from other professionals has been kind of a unique experience for you as far as different things that other professionals have come up with the orange whip. What are some of the most creative uses that you found that other guys are using it for?
Yeah, you bet. And surprisingly, this one didn't come to me right away, but I preach it a ton right now, is individual swings with the orange whip. And what I mean by that is once you do the back and forth repetitive motion drills, and you get a feel for it, we've got to somehow translate it to actual golf. So I had a pro that early on, even before I even brought it out to the market, he said, this is really great for just individual swings, because if you take it away too quick at the beginning, it's going to throw you off balance. And everybody knows if you snatch the club away at the takeaway, you're going to be gone. You'll be off balance. Also, you've got to be very smooth in the transition if you do an individual swing. And most golfers panic at the top of their swing, and that's why they force it over the top and they chop right down on it. So you'll feel if you do that with the orange whip immediately. And then the third, and probably one of the more important ones, is because of the weight of the orange whip, it's going to carry you into a full finish. And so many golfers slow down right after impact or at impact that they lose all the momentum. So the individual swings was great. And again, it seems very simple and very obvious, but I wasn't promoting it as much until I talked with this friend. So I thought that was pretty fun. Another thing that I've found quite interesting is there was a exercise tool out many years ago. I would imagine you're familiar. It's called the Body Blade. Yeah. And it's you hold it in the middle and it vibrates. Or it doesn't vibrate. It just you move it up and down. And a lot of people use the orange whip. They'll hold it in the middle of the shaft, and they'll use it as a body blade.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people like that, and it's cool because you can find that rhythm to it, and it's just a secondary or a side thing that I thought was pretty neat. This was a kind of an odd one. This was a guy from England. He sent me a picture of how he did this. He took his orange whip. And he put I'll try to explain this. Think of it like a long putter. Let's go to that thought. So like a long putter, but he was using a regular ping putter, let's say, with an answer or something with a flange on the back. He put the orange ball in his chest, and he put the white ball counterweight on the back of the flange, and he held the shaft and his grip at the same time, and it acted as basically as a long putter, but he's using his short putter, and it's developing that skill for him. So I thought that was also very
interesting. Just kind of creating that pendulum feel, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And because the shaft is flexible, there's some flow to it. The flow is so important with every shot, be it a drive or a putt. So I thought that was unique. Another thing, actually, I had come up with this one, and I didn't really come up with it the way you're going to think, but I'll explain that now. When swinging the orange whip, I want people to feel I want them to be able to feel where the weight or the momentum of that orange ball is going, especially if by some reason that orange ball were to release off the end of the shaft. Where would it go? Like, where would you sling it, or where would you whip that ball? And unfortunately, it didn't happen to me when I was making one of my prototypes and the ball flung off the end of it. But the point is a person can feel that, and what I like about it is I don't want people to focus so much on the impact of the ball. I'd rather have them be properly addressed to the golf ball and let the club swing through that area. I want them to swing all their momentum to a target. And with this weighted orange ball, it's really easy to feel where that is. So I could be standing by someone watching them swing, go, okay, swing that orange ball to that tree over in the distance. Okay, now start swinging it to that house to the right of the tree. And I don't even have to tell them how to do it, and they'll immediately athletically figure it out. And it's great. They'll just drop it inside and they'll swing it to the right. And then I'll go, okay, now there's that building to the left. I'll swing to that. And they'll figure out a way to change their swing path and plane for that. So that's a fun one too, because you can really feel where the momentum is going. And once a person gets into that mindset, it frees up their hands and arms, and there's no more tension or control. And all they're doing is swinging all the momentum to a target. And to me, that's when power and accuracy combine.
That's great. I know that in my swing, I struggle with just kind of finishing the swing, and that's what it does. It helps bring you around, and I like the idea of having a target because, most people, their target, as you said, is the golf ball, is just hitting that golf ball, and then they kind of stop, and they just kind of let their swing happen after that. But if you're swinging through with a little bit of weight, and you can feel the weight, trying to pull you off balance, and so you got to stabilize and use your balance. So I love that drill. One drill that we've actually started using at the gym, I started noticing that guys would swing this thing and they'd get out of breath a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? We could start using that as a little bit of a kind of a cardio or a little bit of a sprint or interval. So there's many times in the gym where I'll be going through some sort of a circuit session or doing some sort of a weight training strength session, and then I'll have the guys go swing it 10 times right-handed, 10 times left-handed, and it's basically almost like jumping rope. You get their heart rate up, you get their blood pumping a little bit, and so we've incorporated that in as like a little bit of interval training. We even did a little YouTube video on it, so I'll link that up in our show notes here.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and I appreciate that because you're right. It's again, I designed it for a person to feel the athletic swinging motion, but through these drills and exercises, like you said, I believe there's a lot of potential for even just rehab and fitness, even if you're not a golfer, but just for your muscles and your body to loosen up because of this motion. Yeah,
there's a lot of different things in the golf swing that can really kind of play on, your hips, your back. And if you don't have that rhythm or you don't have good posture, which the Orange Whip promotes, if you don't have that stuff, you can put stress on a lot of different parts of the body. And that's why we always stress to everybody to get evaluated and try to figure out what are the issues that you're having as far as limitations in your swing. Because if you don't fix those, your body's not moving properly, you're going to have compensations. But using something like this that really kind of promotes the balance and just doing other drills, other swing-related drills, like you mentioned, anything right-handed and left-handed and balancing out and trying to figure out those imbalances and correct those are just going to make your body that much more tolerant of your golf swing and allow you to play for much, much longer time.
Well, agreed. And also, you were talking about the cardio benefits. What's interesting is I do a lot of presentations, and I'll be doing all these drills as I'm talking. Well, by the time I'm finished with these drills and talking, I'm breathless because, I'm going through the drills and trying to show exactly what I'm talking about and do it to the exact replica of what I would like them to do. And, it wins me a little bit. Another thing that I'd like to state about that, like anything in life, you got to find the right time to exercise and to do certain things, and you've got to put it into your day-to-day activity. What I tell people with the Orange Whip, I say, before you get in the car in the morning, do these drills. It'll take you 3 to 5 minutes. It'll take you about the same amount of time as listening to your favorite song. So I have certain songs that I listen to that I play while I'm doing it just to kind of keep me motivated. So I'll do it before I go to the office, or if I need to take a break from my computer, I'll go out into our warehouse and I'll do some drills. I just find these little pockets during my busy day to do it, and it's nice because I'm developing my swing, I'm staying in shape, and my back is loosening up, and I'm working certain muscles that I don't work every day. So there's nice ways to find pockets to do this.
Yeah, and that's so important with any exercise related thing. But what you mentioned earlier, that it's kind of like dancing, and I'm admittedly a terrible dancer, but there's different things that we've all done in our lives, whether it's dancing or playing a sport, and as you practice it over and over and over, all of a sudden it feels like you've got it grooved. And yep. I'm sure that's I can't say I've ever felt that dancing, but playing soccer, there are certain things that just felt so hard at first, whether it was taking a free kick and learn how to bend the ball into the side of the goal. And it was just so hard, and I'd watch other players do it. But repetitiously practicing and practicing and practicing, now all of a sudden it's just kind of like secondhand nature to be able to do something like that, where I've never really heard it put as doing this is much like dancing, and once you develop that rhythm's going to stay with you. And obviously you got to keep practicing to keep it fine-tuned, but doing those little things 3 to 5 minutes a day can definitely make a huge difference there.
Oh, absolutely. And for let's even go into more of an advanced usage of all the drills that we've been talking about. If a person gets to a point where they're really good doing these drills, now try to do them all with your eyes closed. And once you can do that comfortably, man, it's amazing how much better your balance gets and how much your rhythm and just your whole sensation of what's going on improves.
That makes a ton of sense. All right, Jim, I got a couple questions for you. I'm very intrigued by just the growth of the Orange Whip. It seems like it's just been a phenomenon in the golf world. And you said you went to the PGA show in 2008, right?
Yep.
First time you brought it out there. So I know you had several different prototypes leading up to that. Was it once you got to the PGA show, was it a pretty smooth transition, or did you ever have somebody look at it and go, "That's silly. That's never going to work"? And did you ever think there was a time where you're like, "Why am I even pursuing this?"
Well, that's a great question too, because 2 weeks before that PGA show, and understand this, I'm a PGA pro, but I had only been to the PGA show one time, probably maybe in the mid-90s, and I was there for a part of a day, and I didn't really even understand the whole situation there. It wasn't like I understood what the vendors go through. So when I signed up for it, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm even ready to do this. I've never even been to a show before, and I'm going to the biggest of them all. So I did a show in a town called, I think it was Evansville, Indiana, about 10 days before it, as let's call it a practice round. And that was just a consumer trade show for golfers who want to go there. So I go there, I'm all ambitious and excited, and I set up my booth, and I'm in there, and these people coming in, and they kind of gave me that response. I was like, what is this thing? You make this in your garage? And I did. And it was they were in there looking for pinnacles for $12 a dozen, and they weren't looking for Orange Whips. And I was the only people who bought them at that show were the local pros who came by to promote their lessons or their golf course. So I sold like 8 Orange Whips, but they were all the people who were good players or teachers, and they might have looked at the first version and said, yeah, it's kind of odd, but the moment they swung it, they go, I get this, I like this. So I remember leaving that event going, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here. This is a big, big gamble. But a couple weeks later, I go to the PGA show. I had a tremendous response. Because again, surprisingly, I designed this for the bad golfer, but the better the player, the better the teacher, the quicker they understand it.
Yeah.
So I had a really good response and a lot of support early on. And that first version, which I did make in my garage, within a year and a half, we had a very cleaned up, very, how do I say this, a very effective Orange Whip that we've stuck with that design ever since. But yeah, that first year I had a few concerns for sure. And
so you mentioned the better players have really kind of understand it. I know I've seen it in a lot of professional bags on tour. Do you have any idea how many guys on the PGA Tour are regularly using it, roughly?
We used to keep track because we get pictures and notes all the time of pros who've been using it. But, I mean, with the Champions Tour, the PGA Tour, and the LPGA, we're probably nearing that 400-person mark, 400. Yeah. But on a regular basis, it's hard to say because I caddied on tour. I probably wouldn't want to carry an extra 2 pounds when I already got a 48-pound golf bag. So here's what's funny is last week at the Sony Open, Zach Blair, who I really believe should have won that event, he had his Orange Whip in his bag every day, and I was watching, and he was the leader for most of the Saturday and Sunday. So I was taking pictures from the TV all the time of Zach Blair's Orange Whip in his bag, and it was great.
I think I saw a few of those posts on Twitter or Facebook. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but, Retief Goosen carries it a lot. Graham McDowell carries it a lot. Frederick Jacobson carries it a lot. Angel Cabrera uses it a ton. But it's hit or miss how much they carry it. I mean, I wish they'd keep it in their bag. But it's extra weight, and so I understand that as well. But we have a great following on tour, and what's funny is I've spent a lot of weeks on tour meeting pros, and you know what? Every one of them really, really enjoys it. I mean, they get it and they like it, and they use it more for their warming up and finding their rhythm for the day. They don't really need to improve their swing very much. But we've had a great response on the tours.
Nice. And what made you? I mean, obviously it's an orange ball and it's a whippy club. But what made you decide to call it the Orange Whip, or what made you use the orange ball, or how did the name come about?
So when I came up with the idea, I knew I could not put a club face or a straight edge on the end of it, because that would encourage someone to control that straight edge. And that was what I was trying to get away from. The more I believe someone tries to control the club face, the less likely they're going to become athletic in this game. So I knew I was going to have a ball on the end of it, and I knew it was going to be a weighted ball. And I wanted it to be bigger than a golf ball, so the size that I settled on was about the size of an orange. And I also knew it needed to be a vibrant color, because when you swing it in front of you, it almost creates a tracer path where you can kind of see your path. So I could have went with lime green, or I could have went with yellow, but orange, because of Oregon State, they're orange and black, I chose orange, and it's about the size of an orange, and it's about the weight of an orange. And I thought, well, this is perfect. Now, the name came from, there's a movie called The Blues Brothers.
Oh, I'm so happy that's where the name came from.
Yeah, no, it's exactly where it came from. So you know that scene.
Yes.
Yeah, because at the very end of the movie, John Candy's about to arrest the Blues Brothers, and he's sitting down with two other police officers at this bar or wherever they're performing. And the waitress comes by and she goes, "Can I get you guys some drinks?" And John Candy points at one cop. He goes, "Orange whip." Points at the other one, "Orange whip." 3 orange whips.
I love it, because every time I use that orange whip, I think that in my head: orange whip, orange whip, orange whip. 3 orange whips. That's so cool.
And it's fun. I mean, I don't know if you have time for this, but I tied the number 3 into a lot of things, because 2003 is when the idea came to me. It was many years later when I actually had a product, but that's when it struck me that it's a ball on the end of a chain. I have 3 versions of the Orange Whip, not counting our junior version, but 3 adult versions, and I've got 3 basic drills. So there's a lot of 3s going on with that. So
very symbolic.
Yeah. Very much.
I love it. All right, well, this is a perfect transition. Speaking of movies, classic movies, the first question that I like to ask all of the guests at the end of the show is, are you more of a Caddyshack or a Happy Gilmore guy?
Caddyshack by far. And what's great, too, about Caddyshack is Bill Murray is an orange whipper. I've had multiple pictures of Bill Murray with his orange whip.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that's great.
That's awesome. All right, if you could pick one person in the world of golf, and I'm sure you've met tons of guys in the world of golf, but today, present players, anybody, or past, who would it be that you would want to ride in a cart with or play 18 holes with?
Could I have 2? Could I have one past and one present?
I'll give you both, yep.
Okay, present, Tom Watson, because when I started golf, he was on top of the world, and to me, his golf swing is an orange whip swing while he's swinging on an orange peel. He everything he does is what I promote. So Tom Watson for sure. And past, there's a guy named Ernest Jones, and not many people know of who he is, and I didn't know of who he was, but he created this ball and chain idea 90 years ago, and I thought when I came up with it, I was the first guy to ever think of this. Well, it's been around forever. And Ernest Jones, he taught this way, and he used to do these golf lessons in New York City in this big ballroom with a symphony orchestra, and they'd have rhythm music playing, and he would teach people to swing in his ballroom, and I'd give anything to see that. So yeah, Ernest Jones. If any of your people are golf nuts, have them look up Ernest Jones and learn more about this guy. He was amazing.
Okay, we'll definitely have to do that. All right, what is the most exciting thing that you have going on for 2016, and what is kind of your mission as 2016 unfolds?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything exciting other than that our growth is, we've had our best year ever last year, and we're hoping to surpass that this year. So growth has been great. I guess my most exciting thing is we do have a putter. We do have an Orange Whip putter, but it's going through a renovation. And it's not quite ready. I was hoping to have it ready for the show, but it will not be. So that will be exciting to me when I get that ready. And that will be not only a training putter, but also a competitive putter. that I'm going to bring out, and it's going to have an interchangeable shaft. The training one will be an Orange Whip flexible shaft, and then the actual putter will be you can put a steel shaft into it.
Wow.
So that's exciting to me, but I've got a few other things on the horizon that, fortunately, the Orange Whip has been successful, and it's allowed me to pursue other ideas that rattle around in my brain. And I got a couple of other things that I'm excited to get going. It's just, I don't know if they'll be ready by 2017 or when they'll be ready, but it's freed me up to pursue some of those ideas.
Cool. Can't wait to see what you have up your sleeve.
Yeah.
All right, before we go, do you have any last pieces of advice for the audience, and then let them know where they can find you and how they can get their hands on an Orange Whip?
Sure. Well, my best advice is just do your best to find your rhythm. Find a swinging, athletic rhythm. And maybe it's as simple as watching golfers on TV and picking your favorite swing and trying to emulate that. But once you have a good rhythm, I don't like to tinker around with someone's golf swing when they have a good rhythm. I only experiment then with their setup and their grip and that. Because the better your grip and your setup is, the better your positions will be in a golf swing, because they have to be. So I think work on your rhythm, work on your balance, and then have your PGA Pro help you with your setup, because that's all you'll need to work on after that. As far as finding us, our website is orangewhiptrainer.com, and we've got plenty of videos, plenty of writing, plenty of philosophy if you want that at the website. And you could also go to YouTube and Google Orange Whip Golf, and there's not only me having quite a few videos, but there's a lot of other pros who are big supporters of the product talking of how they use it. So you can check YouTube, or you can check orangewhiptrainer.com and learn more from there. And also, I'd like to state the Orange Whip, all the parts are from the U.S., and we make them in Easley, South Carolina. We package them here, and we ship from here. So we're an all-American company, and we ship all over the world. But we make them here, and if there's ever a problem, we will take care of it. We're very proud of the product. We think it's very durable, but if it's mishandled, something could happen. We want to take care of the guys who support us. So we're very proud of the way we run our operation.
Awesome. I love that. As you know, I'm a big supporter of the Orange Whip, big fan of it. A lot of my clients are using it and have it in their bag. We will have everything in the show notes page as far as, links to the videos. We'll post some of our videos in there that we've done for the Orange Whip, and how you can get your hands on an Orange Whip. You can even use this code 18STRONG. You get a little discount off your whip there. And Jim, can't tell you how much I appreciate having you on the show today. You guys are doing great things in the world of golf, and like I said, the Orange Whip is a phenom in the golf world these days, and I can't wait to see what's coming next.
Thank you. Yeah, we like to call it Orange Whip Nation.
There we go. Thanks again for coming on, and we will talk very soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, now you know just about everything there is to know about the Orange Whip, how it was created, where the idea came from, where the name came from. You've got some different drills that you can do to improve your tempo, your swing, your rhythm, your balance. We even talked a little bit about the fitness and health-related benefits. And as I mentioned, we've got some videos. Jim's got some videos that I'm going to link up in the show notes page as far as just different drills and how to do the drills that Jim was talking about. So you can find those at 18strong.com. Just search Orange Whip, and that'll come right up. If you don't have an Orange Whip and you want to get an Orange Whip, we'll have links in there to take you directly to orangewhiptrainer.com. And as I mentioned in our interview, you can use the code 18STRONG, and that'll automatically give you a discount when you check out. So definitely take advantage of that. I want to thank you for joining me on the 18 Strong podcast. It's always a pleasure to have a guest like Jim on the show, some of the most prominent people in the world of golf, and we're looking to bring you a lot more great guests in the year 2016. So thanks for being here. Don't forget, as always, train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.